the Boris Dirk podcast. Welcome back, everybody. We've got a lot of stuff we wanted to cover today. We had a segment idea that came to me mid morning ritual called Old Take Poker, which we'll explain a little bit more later. And we were planning on just doing that today. But then this OG Anunoby for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley trade dropped over the weekend. It was shocking at first, even though the Knicks had long had rumored interest in OG Anunoby, and his agent is our GM's son. But regardless, now that we've had a few days to process it, I think we both view it as a win-win for both teams. And we can get into a little bit of analysis of the trade. But in honor of the win-win, we're also going to propose additional trades that we think would be win-wins for teams around the league. But first, talking about the OG trade, and before I go to Drew, I think it was a move that may hurt for the Knicks in terms of losing quickly, and he does, I think, have real high-level upside as a starting point guard, which he never got to fully realize with the Knicks playing behind Jalen Brunson. But at the same time, OG was a huge position of need for the Knicks as a big wing. Their team just had so many guards on it, so many undersized players, big on heart, but small on size. And I think this acquisition really kind of locks their starting group into focus and fills all the different roles that they need on the basketball court with their starting group, and they can go and furnish their depth from here. Anyways, bringing in Drew now. How you doing? And we'll talk about a bit about the OG trade. I know you have some RJ stuff coming later, but how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I think the Knicks got better. I'd be excited as a Raptors fan as well. There was this moment I watched RJ's full debut for the Raptors. I guess it was a tight loss. No,
A tight win.
tight win. Sorry. I watched that whole game and seeing RJ in the white Raptors jerseys, I just had a crazy deja vu to those legendary like FIBA tournaments when he was a teenager playing for Canada, just tearing up like the American team of all five-star recruits. Something just looks right about RJ in those colors. If anyone can get a star out of that guy, it's the Raptors organization. So that's why I agree with you. I'm leaning mutually beneficial early here.
All right. So in honor of the win-win trade that went down between Toronto and New York, we've come together with some more win-win trades that we think both teams would make, feel great about, and get better. So I'm going to throw my first one at you, and you tell me if one team needs to throw in a pick here. But
Okay, let's do it.
Donovan Mitchell for Tyler Hero and Jaime Jaquez.
Okay, I'm glad we're starting here because one of the main things I wanted to talk about in these potential win-win trades is we have two teams that really want to win now that have like a superstar rookie who looks like a potential all-star. The Warriors have Bajemski, and here Miami has Jaime Jaquez. And so I've been really wondering like how much do these teams want to do the vaunted multiple timelines thing, have a young guy to kind of lead the next generation, versus cash out while these stock prices are really high. Jaquez, especially because he's just been like he's absurdly precocious as a one-on-one scorer, rebounder, passer, stout defender, all of it. Repeat the trade.
It was Mitchell for Hero and Jaquez, and maybe Miami has to throw in a pick. I'm not sure.
I can't do that as Cleveland. I feel like I'm selling low on Mitchell and buying so high on Jaquez that it just doesn't feel right. Even if Jaquez ends up being like a six-time All-Star, it doesn't feel good in my bones.
To put on sort of the like Bill Simmons hat where he likes to say like this player is X% of this player.
Yeah,
I guess the question is like, can Hero be 60 to 70% of Donovan Mitchell, and then Jaquez, I guess if you're trying to rationalize it from the Cleveland perspective, and then
yeah.
Jaquez sort of brings you over the top. Maybe his youth, although he's not like super young for a rookie, he was a 4-year college player, but he may align a little bit better with the Garland Mobley timelines.
For
I
sure.
know I know they have Strus now. You get to reunite Hero and Strus. They can compete for the 2 guard spot, but having him as like a real option at the wing for Cleveland is something they've been searching for the last few years. So that's why it came to me as like the Heat need sort of an all-in move, and the Cavs, could maybe reconsolidate around their youth, add a really good wing where now you have a really good fitting young trio of lead guard Darius Garland, wing Jaime Jaquez, big Evan Mobley, and then Jared Allen as well, which I would probably look to move him to perhaps to get Evan Mobley more time at center. But that's why that one came to me. So even if Miami is throwing in a pick or two picks, that's still not doing it for you.
You know what it is, dude? It's just like the way my monkey brain works. It's like I feel like I'm trading Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Agbaji, three unprotected first round picks and two pick swaps for Jaime Jaquez and Tyler Harrow. And that just scares the shit out of me. I shouldn't be thinking that way because the Spida trade is a thing of the past. The Gobert trade is a thing of the past. But that's what makes these win-win trades so hard to come by. Like
Yes.
the market is so distorted. Everyone has vastly different ideas of what they should be getting or giving away for any specific asset. I love Jaime. I totally agree with you. Just like his player archetype is a better match for all the good things going on in Cleveland. It feels like it's not the right time, if that's the best deal.
Fair enough.
Let me see. I was trying to get Lowry to the Heat. The Hawk, it just, I don't think the Jazz want to trade Lowry for Jaime and like some contracts. I
Yeah.
I just don't think it's enough for similar reasons. How about this? Let's I was thinking on that really, really high level rookie vein, Pajemski in Golden State. How would you feel about something like Lauri Markkanen to the Warriors for Kuminga, Pajemski, and a distant pick? And then I think you throw in like Gary Payton for contracts.
Okay. And that's enough. You don't have to give up Chris Paul. You don't have to give up Andrew Wiggins to make that work.
No, that's what's crazy. Like Lowry's on 17 a year right now.
My God.
Yeah. And so it's just like we don't know the Draymond status. I've got a potential Draymond deal coming up for you.
Yeah.
Even though I firmly believe he should stay in Golden State. Lowry, yeah, this is a chance for the Warriors to get the most out of the end of Steph Curry's prime here. Are they still below 500? I'm pretty sure they are. I mean, it's been a
They're
shit show the
right.
last few
They're
years.
yeah,
Yeah,
16 and 17.
they're
Um,
toppling and they
ooh,
need firepower.
I like it. So it's Pods, Kaminga, and a first
Yeah,
for Lowry. Then the Warriors are trotting out Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Lowry, and Draymond is sort of a pseudo death lineup. That's very intriguing. And also it gives you some Wiggins insurance because if Wiggins
yeah.
continues to suck, you can play Lowry at the threesome, like he has experience doing that in Cleveland. Uh
Just changes the kind of size feel of that whole roster.
yeah, gives them another offensive weapon who can create his own shot, which they still really don't have one outside of Steph. I mean, like Chris Paul can create other people's shots, and that's how their
Yeah.
bench is running so well. And Pajemski's got some sort of nascent ability to do that, but I'd really think hard about that, especially with Lowry on his nice deal, and he's still pretty young. Like his growth curve is they're not going to have to worry about that and him sort of aging out. Like they're not trading young for old. They're trading young for like, entering prime essentially or prime. That's a good
Yeah.
one. That's a very
And
good one.
Utah seems to be like where fascinating guards go to die. So just send all these young, interesting, eclectic talents over there. Kuminga's been coming on lately too, which makes me think either the Warriors should like trade should sell high or like, the player development team is paying off now and they're getting a guy much closer to what they thought.
Yeah, and I mean my obvious trade I came up with, which has been sort of bandied about a lot, is Chris Paul and Kaminga for Siakam.
Yeah.
Uh, which you could also do Wiggins and Kaminga for Siakam, but then you kind of have no wings. I feel like they need to hold out hope that Wiggins regains some form. And in that
Oh, and
scenario,
yeah.
have Pods run the second unit. But being able to bring in Siakam, Toronto, he's an expiring. He might be leaving anyways. They get Kuminga, who, um, at least Masai may have some familiarity from sort of the NBA Africa background and Kuminga's recruitment through that. So that one popped out to me, and it's another non-shooter for Toronto. It seems to be their MO. Maybe they're sick of the non-shooting at a certain point, but that one I think jumps out as well.
If Kuminga qualifies as the chip that gets you Siakam, I think you got to do it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
actually disrespectful to CP, who's been doing a lot of stuff for them and has like the craziest assist to turnover ratio after like I think it's Tyus Jones leads the league right now. But CP's doing CP things for them. But yeah, Siakam is still just such a valuable two-way guy and can play a bunch of small ball, big stuff with Draymond's future in flux. And he could play with Draymond. It's not a tragic combination, even though Siakam's three-point shooting has been dwindling.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to give me another one?
Yeah, let's move over to the Oklahoma City Thunder, the
Mm.
team that I had losing in the Western Conference Finals coming into the year. I'm gonna bask in that one a little more and take poker later. But Josh Giddey was actually like magisterial last night, or was it 2 nights ago? He's kind of been bouncing back after a really rough few weeks of shooting, and his minutes were not always there, as Isaiah Joe is kind of a better floor spacer for their stars. Let's talk a couple Josh Giddey options. Lauri is one of them, which is interesting to me. It kind of reminds me of the old like get Ben Simmons to his own team, like get Josh Giddey to the Jazz and kind of let him surround him with shooters and athletes and let him do his genius creative passing stuff. And then Lauri, obviously, on the Thunder, more size for their front court and floor spacing for their not so elite 3-point shooting superstars or stars. Shea's a superstar. Do you have feelings on a Lauri for Giddey machination?
Yeah. For me, I mean, the Thunder have the picks to get it done,
Yeah,
depending on how many picks Utah wants. I don't know if Giddy's quite the sort of blue chip asset that I'd want back in a Markkanen trade.
yeah.
But
So
if
you like Pajemski and Kuminga better than Giddey?
yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Just because I think Giddy's a real novelty of a player, but it's it's difficult to see sort of it's less easy to project sort of scaling him up what he's going to look like. Um, and does he have some Ben Simmons to him? Does he have some Scotty Barnes to him? More kind of it's just difficult because he's a very unique player. We haven't seen that many players like him, but he's not easy to project how he fits in as like a lead dog on a team. I'd be curious to
Yeah.
see it because his fit with OKC is like good, not great. But yeah, OKC has enough to sort of bowl them over with picks if they wanted to go that route. If Utah wanted more picks, they already have so many. But to me, I would need a lot of pick compensation to do that as Utah.
Okay. I think that's fair. I kind of see Giddey as like the Mavs Jason Kidd. Like that's kind of the
Ooh,
Giddey. That feels like the final form of Giddey, and probably with more scoring, because that was later in Kidd's career. He was actually like scoring single digits, but he also played the second most minutes on a title team, and was obviously pivotal to getting them over the top. I really believe in Giddey. That was like a really special case. Like that 37-year-old Jason Kidd isn't your typical like second best player on a title team. He might not even been the second best player on that team, depending on which Mavs fan you ask. Um, Bottom line is, I love Josh Giddey. I would think long and hard. It probably wouldn't take me that many picks. Because he's younger. Just like reset the time cycle because the Jazz are so far away, as currently configured. But the funny thing is, we were talking to our beloved Nets fan, Andy, Coach God, and he said that he's doing Mikal Bridges for Giddey. And that's just really like Giddey plus Bertans. And then like, again, how many OKC picks did the Nets want? Andy, one of the more informed Nets fans I've ever met. Sorry, number one by far.
hmm.
says he's doing that trade.
Yeah.
He's taking Giddey and maybe like the Rockets pick.
Yeah. And that Rockets pick can be a good pick, although it's supposed to be a weak draft this year, but it's going to be a lottery pick most likely. And OKC's shown an ability to hit on those like picks between 10 to 15. But yeah, I think the Bridges one makes more sense to me. I think Bridges isn't quite the asset that Markkanen is. Not not close to being the same level of like elite scorer that Markkanen is. Better as a defender, obviously, but he would fit perfectly in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Although I'd probably like to see them get a little bit of beef, more than like a sort of another skinnier type guy like they have already.
Yeah.
But I do think that trade construction makes a lot of sense. If I'm the Nets and I bring in Giddey, I am sending Ben Simmons far away. I don't want his influence anywhere near Josh Giddey. But that Nets Thunder construction makes a lot of sense to me. I could see that one.
In terms of girth, they need to get a little more Doherty and a little less Gilgeous.
Yes.
Okay, throw one at me.
This one, this one I like. This one I think is pretty good. Dejounte Murray for Alex Caruso and filler.
Okay.
So the the idea behind the Hawks bringing in Dejounte Murray initially was like he's this long, great defender who can sort of run pick and roll when Trey's off the floor and also like cover for him defensively. His defense has like regressed a lot, and he's not nearly like an elite defender as he used to be. Caruso, if there is a backcourt mate that can accentuate Trey's strengths and cover for Trey's flaws, it's Caruso. Like he's made in a lab to play off guard next to one of these ball dominant guys like he did with LeBron in LA and like he would be perfect to do with Luka in Dallas. Trey is still, for all of his faults, like an elite offensive engine, just with his ability to run pick and roll, his ability to shoot and pass. Having Caruso next to him, I think, is a perfect fit and could solve a lot for Atlanta and at least give them indications of like, can we win with Trey as our point guard? Because if you can't make it work with Caruso and some of the other athleticism they have on the roster of at least getting a passable defense, then that tells you like we're just never going to have a shot at a passable defense with Trae Young on our team. I think that's valuable info. For the Bulls' perspective, they got to like Dejounte Murray. Not everyone likes him. I like it more for the Hawks than I do for the Bulls, and it's possible they could get more for the Bulls or they could get more for Caruso, but Dejounte Murray, good young point guard. It seems like it's not a team that wants to bottom out. So if they want to just sort of retool around kind of a young former all-star point guard and Dejounte Murray, they can do that. I think he fits pretty well with Kobe White if they want to keep building around him because Kobe's a good shooter and uh, they're both like decently sized where you can play him at the 1 and 2 and not be tiny. So yeah, what do you think?
I hate to be a broken record, but like, so we traded 3 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and salary filler and Danilo Gallinari, who I guess is probably sipping spritzes in Positano right now. But
He's in Washington.
We traded all that for Caruso and filler.
That's a sunk cost fallacy. They've already traded for Dejounte Murray. They've already seen it doesn't work.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
value's gone down.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think I'd rather have, don't quote me. This might just be spur of the moment, but I might rather have the RJ contract than the DeJounte contract. Um,
Hmm.
just I just believe in RJ's soul. We're gonna get to it. Yeah, that one's tough to swallow. That feels like Hawks GM getting fired. But I agree again. I think Caruso is an amazing fit with Trae Young.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got to be more than filler though. Um,
Caruso,
despite the money they paid DeJounte, like he's doing a lot for them, and that team would get more Trae Young than ever.
maybe this shows how low I am on Dejounte because I didn't even propose this because I thought it was too much. Caruso and Patrick Williams for Dejounte works. Like that money works if you want to do that.
Boom, boom, lock it in.
Caruso and Pat
I
Will.
like that.
Then you have Trey, Caruso, a really nice wing or at least I'm not sure how I feel about Patrick Williams, but Jalen Johnson's awesome. DeAndre
Yeah.
Hunter. I was looking for some DeAndre Hunter trades as well. Good big rotation with Capella and Okongwu, and then having the wing bigs of Patrick Williams, Jalen Johnson, and DeAndre
Yeah.
Hunter around Trey and Caruso. Like, if you can't cobble together a good defensive team with that, then Trey is just not the answer. But I feel like you have to find that out, and that's the way to do it.
All right, here's some improv for you. While we're on the Bulls, the Bucks aren't going to trade Chris Middleton because human beings don't do that, even in a tough business. It's just not going to happen. They got the ring. He's immortalized. If he's getting traded, it won't be for like another year. But if this is just 2K and your goal is to get another ring, are you doing Middleton for Pat Will and Caruso? It because the all the talk right now around the Bucks is right. Like I guess people are talking less because they've been winning, so we don't have to
Yeah.
keep doing the like the Bucks are actually good. They are good, but they don't have a lot of depth, and he's kind of their Clay. And it's like, do you want to turn him? He's better than Clay, but do you want to turn him into multiple helpful players and really just ride that two superstar headed dragon?
Yeah, I don't think I would do that. I think Middleton's been really valuable for them, especially over the last like little stretch of games here in the last month or two. He's been playing a lot better. His efficiency is still very high. Um, all the sort of lineup data says that like they're
Yeah.
way better with him on the court. And yeah, I don't think Patrick Williams is a great fit with Giannis. Just because I don't trust him that much as a shooter. And
I trust him. I trust him. He's shooting like 40%. He just needs to make more than one a game.
Caruso would be a perfect fit next to Dame, like he'd be a perfect fit next to Trey. But I
So
don't
why
think
so why isn't he a perfect fit next to Kobe White?
so. I don't think it's worth giving up Middleton. I think the Bucks really only avenue to a trade is to try to turn Bobby Portis into a different type of valuable bench contributor. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't break up the Chris Dame Giannis trio because I think that's kind of the best thing they have going for them right now.
Yep. Okay. Oh, I did write down the Jaime to the Jazz, Jaime and Duncan for
Okay.
Lowry.
I've got
Um,
one more.
I got one more as well. I'll go first.
Yep.
Draymond Green
Ha.
and Gary Payton II to the Clippers for Norman Powell and Terrence Mann. Um, Norm and Mann, I think this is a big floor raiser for the Warriors because I mean, last night I saw Kerr said after their game that Draymond is giving them their space and they're giving him his. It was a weird Kerr quote that made it sound like they're still at least a few weeks from any sort of return to the court.
Mhm.
So yeah, for the Warriors, it's just a chance to beef up your wings and have more competent guys so that Curry isn't completely out of gas by the time you maybe play important games.
Yeah, I don't see that one for the Warriors. I think Powell and Man are lean a little bit more guard than wing, and I think the
Yeah.
Warriors have a lot of guards, and it just makes them too small. Where like you can't play Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Steph, Powell, Man, Pods. Like you can't throw out more than three of those guys at a time. Um, it improves their depth, but no, I think if they're trading Draymond, it has to be for some sort of big creating wing, some like
Yeah.
a Pascal Siakam type of player.
I agree with you. I think this is fundamentally why it's going to be so hard to find a Draymond trade that you actually want on the other side.
Mhm.
Um, for me, this was more a deal that I was thinking about the last couple of weeks before Kuminga has found his groove and Wiggins has shown a couple signs of life. Because there were so many just bad wing minutes on this team with Clay struggling and Moody solid defensively, but kind of up and down, and Pods just being a rookie. Man and Powell are both obviously like really useful vets, but I agree with you. I think it's just such a ceiling lowering trade that you can't do it as Golden State.
Yeah. I was having as a side note, like just thinking prime Draymond would be absolutely perfect for this Oklahoma City team as their four. And I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of bad blood there, but having him next to Chet would just be absolute gangbusters defensively. He could bang with the bigger guys and also kind of play backup five for them as well. But that's never going to happen. Um,
Your
my,
last one hit me.
my last one. This is a real deep cut. Kevin Herter for Jonathan Isaac.
Oh my God. All right. Segment's over. I said big trades, you fool.
Get the Magic a shooter, get the Kings a defensive force at the four. That's it.
Yeah, get some religion in Sacramento. Okay. I have no I wouldn't do that as the Kings. You can't sell low on Herter. He's a great shooter who's shooting poorly this year. I think he'll figure it out. But Chris Duarte has an opportunity right now to steal some minutes. They just slid him into the starting lineup. I don't know if it was a one night thing or if it's going to happen again tonight, but yeah, I love Chris Duarte. By the way, Chris Duarte is a not enough talked about like guy who should play for contenders.
All right, that was our win-win trades. Take a break and come back with Old Take Poker.
Max just traded Jonathan Isaac for Kevin Herter. That's why the advertisers pay us the big bucks. Now introducing Take Poker, Max Klotz.
So Old Take Poker. This idea came to me mid-morning pee, and the idea was we brainstormed some of our old takes from the last season or two, or really just from our time, like really, if, in some cases, going back even further to previous drafts, and decide very simply whether we're ready to fold on a take if we think we were wrong, check if we want to wait for more information, raise if we want to make the take even stronger or bolder, and finally cash out if we think, you know what, this is right. It's not really going to change too much. I'm going to take my money and go. So we both came with a list of our own old takes. And Drew, I will let you start if there's one you really want to get off your chest.
Okay, I'm going to start with the sort of aftermath of this Raptors Knicks trade. Because in 2018, I kind of made a fool of myself in my community by insisting that RJ Barrett was going to be a better pro than Zion Williamson. I was writing these fake articles to try to get jobs on ZipRecruiter, like sports media jobs. This was before COVID was a word, and I was just a dude writing about the NBA on my laptop. And I remember it was November 12th, 2018. Or sorry, it was November 6th when Duke and Kentucky opened up the college basketball season. That was when Duke just blew the doors off of Kentucky, 1-2. They won by 34, 118 to 84. Zion was 11 for 13. And like the media cycle after that game was just fucking ridiculous. Steve Kerr said, I thought LeBron was a one-shot deal, but apparently the next guy's coming. Paul Pierce said that they'd beat that year's Cleveland Cavaliers. And this was this was just Zion stuff. I mean, RJ had dropped like 28 in that game. He was awesome in his own way. And I put a lot of chips on RJ. I had Ja 1, RJ 2, Zion 3. And here we are. And I'm not ready to fold on this take because I wrote then Williamson's absurd build gives him an advantage, but if 18-year-old Zion weighs 285, how much will 26-year-old Zion weigh? Basketball players typically gain weight with age. Can a 6'6" dude eclipse 300 pounds and still be effective? It would be unprecedented, and that scares me. I was an amazing writer back then, but I'm pretty sure that Zion's over 300 pounds right now. He's still effective. He's still very effective. I was wrong about that. This stat that I've become obsessed with is player impact estimate, because the NBA has this new equation, and if you look at it, it's like pretty hard to argue with their rankings of players at volume. Um, and Zion's has gotten consistently worse since his rookie year. He's pretty much tied with his rookie season now in terms of overall offense defensive impact. Um, and RJ regressed this year too. If you look at the first few years of RJ's career, he was kind of heading in the right direction. I mean, the eye test was a little scary. His biomechanics are stiff. He falls away from the basket on drives. He doesn't seem like he has those natural kind of biological, I don't know, quirks that help guys score around the rim. SGA is the first guy that comes to mind. Um, but I was feeling kind of good about RJ. He had some moments for them in the playoffs. Knicks fans would tell you the stats were a little bit better than the actual performance. Um, I'm just not ready to quit on RJ. And Zion's star is falling. He's often the second or third option for the Pelicans now, depending on the night. And he just got a tattoo that is lopsided and seems to protrude from his chest. And he didn't need to get thicker. So I'm gonna check. I can't possibly raise because Zion healthy has been a much more effective player than RJ Barrett. But God damn it, I believe that RJ is gonna go to Toronto and start defending more consistently, start making threes more efficiently. I think he's gonna slowly figure it out. I don't think his contract will look great for another couple of years because guys of this age that score 19 points per game just get paid. Um, but God damn it, I will not lay down my sword. I think RJ is going to have a better career than Zion Williamson.
I love it.
Check.
This is check. Knock knock. This is the bedrock of your NBA like take kingdom, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've always been very high on Zion. I haven't been doing in-depth draft analysis since or until the Paolo draft. So the last two have been when I did really in-depth, but I love Zion. I didn't have as many concerns about his body. Clearly, those concerns of yours have been validated and vindicated. Certainly you can
yeah.
cash out on the what's this guy gonna weigh at 26. Like we're basically there. He's 23 and he's already over, or no, he's probably more than 23, but he's already over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
At the yeah, and with RJ though, as someone who's watched him a lot over the last, since he came into the league as a Knicks fan, we talk a lot about, you're talking about his sort of athletic quirks, people's first steps, but I think RJ might have one of the worst last steps I've seen, where he gets to the basket and it seems like he just almost gets a flat tire, like he can't
Yeah.
fully explode off of that like last step. And his elite skill is getting to the basket because he drives and shoots shots at the rim at really prolific levels, even at times in really condensed, bad spacing Knicks units. But he just doesn't finish there because he can't explode. He can't make the shots easy enough for him where he's getting dunks or sort of like layups where he's really elevating to the basket. And it leads to a lot of sort of wild shots that don't have much of a chance. Um,
Yeah. And to your point about the last step, he also plays with a guy who arguably has the best last step on planet Earth, Jalen Brunson. And Brunson doesn't do it with elevation. So like a lot of people worry about RJ when he drives, like it's like, why isn't his head at the rim? Why isn't he dunking on people? There's so many other ways to create separation and create high percentage opportunities. If Jalen Brunson had RJ's body, he might be the best player in the NBA. So I just, yeah, I still, how old is RJ now? 22, 23?
got to be more than
Like,
that at this point.
oh shit, the time flies. He
RJ
is
Barrett.
23.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just, I think that I think his era is going up and Zion's is going down. So that's why I'm holding on to that take for dear life.
That's fair.
Hit me.
All right. A lot of mine are more quick hitters. I don't have the sort of eloquent old writing that you do. Um, so a fold to get out of the way is Minnesota to miss the playoffs this year. I'm gonna go ahead and fold on that one. I'm still gonna maintain that I don't trust them as a playoff team, and there are several other teams that I would pick to beat them in a series in the West, mainly because I don't trust their offense. I think their defense is for real, but I think in the modern NBA, you have to be a very good to elite offensive team to go really far in the playoffs. And I don't think that they are that. I think they're going to be very Anthony Edwards dependent in the playoffs. I don't trust Cat in a playoff setting. We've already seen Rudy be rendered fairly useless offensively in a playoff setting. And it's a lot to put on Ant, who I think is really good, but there's a lot of players in the West that are better than him in a head-to-head matchup. So folding on them to miss the playoffs. Actually, I had them to miss the play-in. I had them as the 11 seed. It's looked really dumb. They're clearly a regular season juggernaut, but still don't trust them as a playoff team.
Yep, checks out.
Another
Uh,
fold. I had Kings at the 10 seed. They also look like they're going to be better than that. But you know what? Maybe I won't fully fold on that just because they're so condensed in the West. Like they could still drop into the play in pretty easily. So I'm going to check on the Kings being a 10 seed.
all right, sounds good. I just got to fold real quick on the Grizzlies as the 6th seed.
That's my cash out.
Yeah. Um, and I should say real quick, if the Wolves prove you wrong, it's because of the step I think that Ant has taken as a defender. Like all of the advanced defense stuff loves him. And like he's incredible. To your point, he just might be still more in that Jason Tatum tier than like the tier of guys who carry their teams all the way. In terms of Memphis, yeah, dude, I think I overreacted to the past couple of years when Ja would get hurt and they'd rattle off wins. I thought they would survive. Um, but what I underestimated is, uh, you know, the absences of Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, all the things those guys do to help you win regular season games. Because Bane and Jaren were, for the most part, really great. Bane especially was just balling out when Ja was suspended. Um, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. I guess Ja's probably been around for 5 or 6 of those. And they're 5.5 games out of the 10 seed, which is the Lakers, whom I think are better than the Grizzlies. So for the Grizzlies to sneak into the play-in and steal a playoff berth, like the Rockets are the first team everyone names the team that's got to fall. But everyone else is good. I mean, the Clippers have been rolling. The Mavs have Luka no matter what else happens in the world.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm folding on the Grizzlies take. Again, they get into the play-in and Ja can beat anyone, kind of like Luka. Ja's been electric since he came back, but I was wrong. It's just really hard in this West to be 11-22 and do much.
Yep. That's one of my cash outs is I had Memphis as the 9 seed. Or to miss the playoffs, I'll say, since they probably won't
Yeah,
make it to 9, but they might. Cashing out on that one. And I in my preseason like predictions, I wrote a little just like take tidbit for every team. And my tidbit for the Grizzlies was no Adams, no wings, jaw suspension, bad vibes. And that's why I picked him to miss the
yeah.
playoffs. And I think that's all held up.
And I mentioned the Rockets, like moment of respect for Dylan Brooks. He might be a vile person. You might not want him in your locker room, but you do if you want to win regular season games. He has been like a primary culture changer for them. So
Yeah. All right. Next one. I'd like to revisit the 2022 draft. I don't know if you have any old takes here that you want to get off your chest.
is this the lost pod draft?
No, that's the 2021
That's
draft.
21, yeah.
2022 is the Paolo Chet Jabari draft.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted,
There's been some crazy shit on Twitter about this.
yes, I wanted to check in about where you are with it. With my Paolo over Chet, I am staying steady with that. I think I had Paolo 1, Chet 2, Jabari 3, which I think it's been pretty clear thus far that Paolo and Chet are the top two. As a side note, everyone who listens to this pod knows I love Jalen Williams. That is going to be a raise. I had Jalen Williams at 6 in that draft. He'd clearly go third right now, unless you're like the biggest fan of someone else on the world. I know there's no way he doesn't go third in that draft. Um, I had him at 6. Stamp it. That will be the bedrock of my NBA evaluation career. But getting back to Paolo, Chet, and Jabari, I'm staying with Paolo over Chet. I do think Chet long term, he's making me nervous, and I think he's going to be a better supportive piece and connective piece than Paolo will be. But I do still have a lot of faith in Paolo's ability as like a number one option and a initiator for your offense that I'm not sure Chet will ever be able to do.
Yeah, and also I think Paolo's making like a 3.5 per game right now. He's not scared to shoot them, which is an awesome sign for him. And like he's been experimenting as a shooter, and they've been winning games. So I agree with you. I think Chet has been an amazing pseudo rookie. I'm still waiting for Wemby to wear the Donovan Mitchell sweatshirt to a game, but the definition of rookie. But yeah, Chet's been amazing. And Chet's kind of rounded more into like what I thought he would be early, which is like an awesome, rangy, versatile defender. And like the offense is a work in progress, but flashes are there.
Almost
He's
like
still,
a
yeah.
almost like a supercharged Al Horford kind of.
Exactly. And I really like also that when Chet's not quite feeling it, he's not going to lose you a game by jacking 18 unnecessary shots.
Yeah,
Like the bad Chet games are just really low volume games. He's like 3 for 6 and doing everything else for them. So
exactly.
I love him, but I'm still super high on Jabari. I think he has a lot to do with why that team is hanging in there in a loaded Wild West. He's not Şengün, but was Şengün was in this draft? No,
No,
Şengün third,
he was
yeah,
in the Cade.
2021, the GOAT draft. Yeah, I I had Jabari 1. I mean, that's looking rough, but I'd probably have Paolo 1 now. Just guys that big, uh, who can pass that well. Paolo's vision and his comfortability just with the ball in his hands for full shot clocks is something that I underestimated when I watched him at Duke.
Yeah,
I did not think that he was truly going to be the point guard of an offense in this way, at least this soon. His ball handling looks tighter and tighter every time I watch them.
yeah.
And I love that he's got the right pieces around him. But yeah.
I've got one more thing from that draft, which I wanted to ask you. Also, real quick, I'm checking on EJ Liddell over Keegan Murray, which I
Okay.
had in that draft. There's just not enough information yet. We haven't seen EJ Liddell basically play an NBA minute of any consequence. So you can take that as he's not good enough to get on the court, or I'm going to choose to take it as the Pelicans have one of the deepest rosters in the league. He got fucked by an ACL injury, and he's going to get his time to shine eventually. But for
All right,
now, checking.
listeners, this whole pod was one take. That was an AI patch on we did of Klotz. If you just Google Max Klotz take, that's what you hear. All right. I said before this season, I had Bam above Embiid on my player rankings, and now Embiid is having maybe the best regular season in decades.
Yeah.
And I am raising.
Let's go.
No, I just I have Embiid in the same compartment as Jason Tatum. Like, let's see the playoff dominance. Let's see it. Let's see this efficiency translate at massive volume, like all the GOATs do. Um, Obviously, Embiid could be slightly worse than this regular season Embiid and still be better than Bam,
Yeah.
because he's just been dragging them with a lot of Maxi as well. But really weak strength of schedule. You know my talking points, and I'm just can't get the last few playoff series out of my head until I see Embiid impose his will against a team that is kind of like a 50-50 playoff matchup. I gotta have Bam above him in my player rankings. Bam is battle tested, and Jimmy was incredible overall, but had some off nights in the playoffs last year where Bam wasn't just the defensive engine, he was the point guard. and he was operating in the mid post, passing, hitting floaters, posting up. Like, I think we underestimate like the functionality of Bam's game as it translates to the playoffs. And
Yeah.
so I'm it's a wait and see for me. Reyes was a bit of a joke. Obviously, Embiid is one of the best players in the world. I just am not yet sure that I'd rather have Embiid as my playoff center, as crazy as that sounds.
And I'd still, for as physically gifted as Embiid is, I'd still like to see him use his physicality more because that's the thing which I think he can go back to without fail in the playoffs. But what we see year after year is that his jumper just kind of deserts him in the playoffs, whether it's because of whatever nagging injury he has. And this is something that Jason Timpf, who's a guy I listen to a lot, talks about with Embiid in the playoffs. But his his jumper just, especially from the mid range and from three, just completely falls off a cliff every playoffs. And I was trying to see this year, like, is he scoring in different ways? Is the distribution of his shots any different? And it's not. It's he's just shooting more, but he shoots basically the same proportion of shots in close, mid range, and threes. He's and about the same percentages he was shooting last year. He's just upped his volume with Harden being gone, and he's got more of like a playmaking responsibility, which
Yeah.
that's been a real growth point for him this year. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's been a more willing passer for sure. I think you have to give some of that credit to Nurse. I still don't quite understand why Nurse wanted the Sixers job because I think it's going to be really hard to get them past where they've been. Doc Rivers said on the Bill Simmons pod a few weeks ago that like Embiid wasn't a very vocal leader for a while and wasn't really immersing himself with the rest of the team. I think that stuff is kind of a big deal. Like, uh, maybe it has to do a little bit with why we've seen the Sixers wilt in the playoffs. Even though like I love Embiid as a guy, as an entertainer, like I think he's an insanely great face for the league to have. I don't know. Maybe he's just not quite the playoff alpha that some of these other top of the line dudes are. But yeah, his step on defense has also been really awesome. I don't know. I think that there isn't like if we're just taking like percentages of a player's skill set that they take with them to the playoffs, I think Bam is about as close to 100% as anyone in the league. And like you said, we've seen some of these amazing regular season glamorous pieces of Embiid's game just not he they aren't in the suitcase when he gets to Miami. So I don't know, man. I need to see another postseason.
yep. All right. Speaking of Miami, in my little blurb I wrote for Miami before the season, I wrote that they were deeper than last year. And that I think I am raising on, and two, they are way deeper than last year. And a large part of that is Jaime Jaquez, who I'm also raising on. I had him 18th in the draft, which was above consensus, but still not nearly high enough. And I really kick myself every time I watch him for not putting him higher because I loved him. But 18th is 18th, and I have to live with that. Um, but Miami is definitely deeper than last year, and they basically turn Max Strus into Jaime Jaquez. They turn Gabe Vincent into a combination of a healthy Tyler Hero and Josh Richardson. Kevin Love is better, more acclimated, healthier than last year. Same thing for Kyle Lowry, who's healthier than he was last year. Bam is better. Jimmy is still Jimmy. Like he hasn't had a otherworldly regular season this year, but you still trust him to be one of the seven best players in the world when a playoff series is on the line.
Yeah, and like they're 19 and 14, but this whole season feels like a hyperbaric chamber for Jimmy. Like they're not going to overdo it. They're 19 and 14. If the season ended today, they're matching up against an inexperienced Orlando 5 seed. Like all is well in Miami.
Yeah. So I am still very high on them, and probably am even higher than I was preseason just in terms of the quality of their team. And I would still probably put them firmly as a top three title contender in the East.
Yep. All right, respect. The last thing I had, and I'm not going to dwell on it because we've done so much Thunder talk the last few episodes. Yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I had the Thunder losing in the conference finals, which was scary for my Thunder fan friends to hear, because that's way more than you could hope for at this stage. Seemingly is the key word there. But yeah, dude. Now people are coming around on the Thunder as a potential zero trade and just go win it team, which
Yep.
is absolutely nuts. But they've just earned that prestige now. Like what are we? 32 games in, like we're nearing the halfway mark, and the Thunder have passed every single test. Almost the opposite of the Sixers. I feel like every Thunder game I've watched is like a big gutsy win against a team that I take seriously. I don't have much to add here other than find a way, legal or illegal, to watch Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. It's one of the craziest uh, exhibitions of craft, any craft that I've seen in my life.
Yeah, he's an artist. And already after last night's game where they beat Boston, he's starting to enter into that next level of conversation where there's a lot of online debates of like Shea versus Tatum. And he's sort of graduated, it seems, from that like 10 to 15 range that everyone agreed he was in to now being in that, is he a top five player type of player?
Yeah,
Um, Real quick, did you have the Bucks to win the title this year? I did.
I had the Nuggets over the Bucks.
Okay. Okay, so Bucks as a finals team. I'm checking. Where are you at on that?
Yeah, check sounds right. I think
Fair.
so. They'd still be my pick out of the East
hmm
since
Um,
the Cavs have been decimated.
I will say I have to admit, well, I don't know if admit defeat's the right word, but the Porzingis trade has worked out way better than I expected for Boston. And I do now maintain that if Porzingis is healthy, I think they're the best team. And I also maintain that they can withstand a Tatum injury more than they can withstand a Porzingis injury. That's kind of my take on Boston this year because they can, I mean, Tatum's their best player, just like purely looking at individual players, but they can sort of cobble together his production through like increased usage for Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday, Porzingis, White. Like those guys can score and they have enough defense on the rest of the team that they can make up for Tatum's defensive contributions as well.
Yeah.
They have nothing that can replicate what Porzingis does for them. His when he's on the court, they seem really unguardable, and his ability to pick and pop and create just these massive driving lanes for everyone on the team is invaluable. And then also being a rim protector on defense, bothering shots around the rim, like he's been absolutely incredible for them and is probably been their second best player this year, depending on how much you love Derek White or if you're really a Jaylen Brown believer. But yeah,
I think the on-off numbers say Derek, but it's close.
yeah,
In terms of the Thunder, I mentioned like that they might have reached zero trades away status. I was thinking like a team like Cleveland, for instance. Let's think Max Strus. Cleveland's 18 and 15 in the 7 seed right now. Let's say Donovan Mitchell sprains his ankle, or you get a bad Mobley X-ray, and Cleveland starts to slide down the standings. Like I think just a tough shooter, rebounder with some girth like Strus would be a nice player for the Thunder.
yeah,
But I think that the deal that they should be looking at is as marginal as that. Not no disrespect to Strus, I love him. I don't. I mentioned the McCall trade earlier. I would think long and hard about that, but like I don't think the Thunder should be doing anything too crazy.
yeah. I'd love them to get like an Xavier Tillman type of player as like
Yeah.
a backup big who could also play next to Chet at some points, like sort of a better version of the big Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
Um, my last question for you is going back to the 2022 draft. Where are you at on Jeremy Sohan and how you felt about him pre-draft versus how you feel about him now? Are you still super high on him? I think you had him fifth, sixth.
Yeah, I had him at 6.
hmm
My basketball heart tells me he's still going to be better than Shaden Sharp
Mm.
just because of his winning spirit. But he was put in a terrible position this year. He should never have been the point guard. That's why you pay Trey Jones. And I think that Sohan is just gonna look way less valuable on a shitty team than Shaden Sharp will. For the obvious reasons. He doesn't have the flashiness, but Jeremy Sohan should be like on the Warriors doing everything they get from Draymond while Draymond is out, like that kind of thing. And then I think all of his best qualities would pop more. It's tough for him. Wemby's 3-point shooting is kind of on and off. Like that team is awkward, and it's been a roller coaster for Sohan. I had him at 6. I'd probably have him a little bit higher just because Matherin has not been what I expected as a kind of like really high level scorer, potential defender. Check.
Fair enough.
I have nothing else, but nice segment.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. That was Old Take Poker. We'll be back soon. Peace.